It's great to have Belmont Bruins head coach Casey Alexander back on the Marching to Madness College Basketball Podcast. His Bruins finished fourth in the Missouri Valley Conference with Northern Iowa, and they finished with the 5 seed in this past season's MBC tournament. Coach, it's a pleasure to see you, man. Glad you're back.
Always good to be with you. Thanks for keeping this train rolling down the tracks.
I'm doing my best, I tell you. Hey, in all 5 of your seasons, that you've been the head coach there of the Bruins, you've now hit that 20-win mark. And, it's kind of a benchmark, I guess, still like it used to be. How were you able to turn the page and, flip the program from Coach Rick Byrd, who finished with 14 20-win seasons in a row?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm really lucky to walk into a program that was so well established and had such a winning culture and was a pretty well-oiled machine. And so a lot of coaches, when you take over jobs, and I've taken over 2 prior to this, that I wasn't quite as lucky. But that's the way that Belmont was set up, and we haven't screwed it up yet. We've enjoyed some success, but it gets harder and harder every year. That's for sure. But hopefully we can keep this going. I'm not sure. You mentioned some of those stats. I think maybe 2010, I think we won 19 games.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take that 19-win season out, I think we have 18 or 19 straight seasons of 20 wins or more.
Wow. That's incredible in today's market, for basketball. I have to talk to you a minute about Ben Sheppard. He played a key role here with the Indiana Pacers, who were just in the Final Four of the NBA playoffs. Finds his shots quickly. He's accurate, solid defender on that wing, a great part of Coach Rick Carlisle's rotation there.
Yeah, we're so happy for Ben. Not surprised. Ben's a worker, and Ben's always been a guy that makes his team better. It doesn't matter what level or what his role is, that he really excels in just getting his job done. And so we're really thrilled. I mean, to start games, his last 2 games in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Boston Celtics, who ironically were his favorite team before he got drafted, says a lot about him. But he's a 4-year player for Belmont, which is rare these days. And so we could not be more happy for him and what he's done so far. And he's got a great future ahead of him.
This past season, your guys finished the campaign 8-3. To pull those 20 wins. What were the keys to the strong finish?
Yeah, well, the biggest part of that strong finish was we got our best player in Ja'kobi Gillespie back. He had missed the 8 games prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
And we were, and which actually just happened to coincide with our toughest stretch of Missouri Valley play. We played Indiana State twice in those 8 games, and Drake and Bradley, the best teams in our league. And so I think we were 3-5 with him out. And then when he came back, we won 8 out of our last 10 until we lost in the tournament game. So it always helps when you've got your best players available.
Oh, yeah. That transfer portal ate up some players I know from Belmont. Ja'kobi is one of them going to Maryland. I think as well as 5 starters. Am I right?
Yeah, we had 2 seniors that, that graduated and exhausted their eligibility. But then Cade Tyson, Malik Dia, Ja'kobi Gillespie were all sophomores for us, all conference players in the Missouri Valley, and all 3 transferred, for big money and green and a higher level, I guess you would say.
Yeah, I just wonder at what point though, you see all that happening. How quickly do you speed up the immediacy to find the replacements?
Fast as you can, Ken. It's a delicate balance between being aggressive and building your roster, but trying to minimize risk and eliminate mistakes. It's hard to win at any level if you don't have the right pieces and the right culture in place, and if you're just throwing darts hoping that something will stick. And so that's where the balance comes in. Let's go find some guys that are good enough. Let's go find some guys that want to be here, but let's make sure they fit how we play and who we are and what we believe in. And that's easier said than done, but it's definitely the biggest agenda we have in the off season these days.
how can coaches reconstruct or fashion teams, with the potential of losing players who are key contributors? Or do you have certain people in mind that will bring their game to your game and it won't be as big a transition?
Yeah, I don't think there's a magic formula. Schools are going to approach the portal and roster reconstruction differently based on where they are, what their needs are, what else they have coming back from the previous season's roster. This particular year, losing those guys that we lost, we felt like we had to replace three, A grade players, talented all conference kind of players. We had to replace them with experience. We obviously have to have players that are good enough to be impactful, but we thought we lost 4 total, but 3 were all conference. Let's go find 4 guys that are older, established, come from programs that we identify with, that'll step in here on the first day. And in a lot of ways, it'll feel like they've been here the whole time. So that was our agenda. And I think we did a really nice job of accomplishing that.
Yeah, I see Brody Peebles coming in from Liberty, and then Furman transfer Carter Witt in the backcourt. Both are solid shooters, solid playmakers from the 2 and 3 guard spots.
Yeah, and both come from really highly successful programs. Aiden Noyes from Richmond is another guy, and then Jonathan Pierre was our 4th guy who won a national championship at Nova Southeastern 2 years ago. So, we feel like we have, the places where those players have their experience really transitions them well into our program. Brody Peebles, you mentioned Aiden Noyes, we recruited them really hard out of high school. So we knew those guys very well. Carter Witt, we've played against Furman the last 2 seasons. So we knew, what his strengths and weaknesses were. And so that's the best formula for us. I don't think we want, to make a phone call and just take somebody off of talent. We want guys that fit how we play and fit who we are.
Sure. At what point do you as a coach feel like the portal will eventually have, some rules, a ceiling and kind of a basement as to when and how players can transfer?
Yeah, I don't know how it's ever going to improve, honestly. I don't see, unless there's revenue sharing, which obligates players to stay at a certain place, for a certain amount of time. I don't see how it is going to change. Just the transfer portal itself. I said in a different interview earlier today. I mean, to me, that's when college basketball decided to let student athletes transfer without having to sit out for a season. That was the first step into getting where we are right now. And I'll say it a different way to you. If Power 5 school X wants a player from Belmont right now, there's no reason for them not to literally recruit him off of our team. But if the player from Belmont had to go there and sit out a season, it would change things quite a bit. The player would be less likely to want to leave. The schools recruiting them would be less likely to take them. And it would slow things down quite a bit. But that's never going to change back to the old way. And so I don't really know what we can do about it at this point in time.
Couple of guys, well, actually 3 guys you have coming back in the backcourt. The roles of Win Miller on the point and Isaiah Walker, along with Kyle Vanderjag, are at the 2 and 3 positions. They played minutes and roles for you last year.
Yeah, and maybe you're going to ask about this later, but Brigham Rogers is a 5-man for us that started probably 15 games and played a lot of minutes. For our team to take the next step, those guys have to elevate themselves and assume a more influential role this year, and not just be in that role, but perform well in that role. We got to have transfers come in and be what we want them to be and be impactful like we hope they will be. And we've got to have returners rise to the occasion and improve themselves. And then we've got to have new guys, the freshmen, emerge and be available as well. So that's the mystery of the offseason for most of us these days is how those things are all going to mix and match together.
The best way to maintain sustainability in a program in one bid league conferences. What do you think the sustainability factor is based on? Because right now, only 9 of the 32 college basketball conferences had multiple NCAA bids in 2024.
Yeah, well, that's a moving target, as you know, and the Valley has a history of having more than one bid. There have been a lot of, majority of seasons in the last 25 years where we've had 2, 3, even 4 teams in, and we would have had 2 last year. Indiana State,
Yeah.
all say deserved to be in. There were 5 bid stealers in the last week of the season, where traditionally this year there were 5 bid stealers. In the 3 previous season, there was 1 bid stealer each season. So Indiana State was clearly in the field outside of the anomaly that was conference tournaments this year. So, but the sustained success, I mean, that's a moving target. I think that it's one great thing about our conference is you have to have the support from the top down, with facilities, with resources, with staff structure, with collectives these days, in order to give yourself a chance. And then it's up to each school. Winning traditions help. Belmont's going to have a chance to win because we've always won. And that allows us to sustain that. But again, it's what we're always trying to protect as coaches, because it doesn't happen by magic. We don't win games because we put a Belmont jersey on. We got to figure out how to win those games, and that's what we're always working toward.
Last thing, Coach, it's been a tough week for us. We found out early in the week that the great Bill Walton passed away with cancer. And of course, when I was a kid in elementary school with the Portland Trailblazers, and then, of course, his great run in '86 with the Boston Celtics, a great announcer, color commentary and stuff on both the Pac-12 network, which he deemed the Conference of Champions, and of course, ESPN. Your thoughts on Bill?
Well, no doubt he was one of a kind, and universally loved. I had no interactions with him ever personally to speak with any kind of authority, but you don't have the outpouring that you've seen this week since his passing from so many influential people who did know him, and that happened by accident. He seemed to be an extremely authentic person, and had the charisma to be enjoyed in any crowd. And for young people today, my daughter being one of them, she loved watching games where Bill Walton was on the color, because he just added so much to the game, just in the same way that he added so much in life because of his colorful personality.
Coach Casey Alexander and those Belmont Bruins coming
You're
out.
the best, man. Thanks. I said you're the best. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys too, and good luck to you. Maybe we'll talk later at some point here, especially before the season starts.
Sounds good. I look forward to it.
Yep. Thanks, Coach.